Okay. Do you want me to start off here, Ryan?
I think we're good to go. We have
got
26 participants so far, and then there might be a few more that trickle in, but I think we can get going. I know we have a full agenda and even fuller panel than the original draft agenda. So
we'll try to hustle things along here then.
That's right.
Okay. All right. Well, welcome everybody. Rob Alton. I'm the current president of the Ontario Institute of Agrologists. So I would like to call to order, and I would like someone to motion to approve the agenda for today.
Did we see it yet?
It was sent in an email.
Okay. If it's the same, I'll move it.
I'll second. Christopher Dufault.
Any objections? Carried. As everyone, I assume everyone's had a chance to, if they've got the package, to approve the minutes from last year's April 10th meeting. Has there been any comments, any corrections made, need to be made on the agenda from last year, or the minutes of the meeting last year? Okay, could we have a motion to approve the minutes from April 10th, 2021?
Doug Youngblood, I'll make that motion.
We have a seconder.
Sure, Mary Ruth.
Okay. Any objections? I hadn't heard any. Carried.
We do have a poll open that people can vote on their screen for.
I just saw that. Yeah.
Opposed.
Is that how you want us to vote then, Katie?
If it's easier for you, just because that way there's a bit more interaction, I guess, but I'm indifferent. It's whatever flows best for the meeting.
Okay, I got my video to start, so you have to look at me now.
Okay.
Okay, next order on the agenda, we'd just like to have a moment of remembrance for those of our colleagues that have passed away in the past. Okay, thank you. I'll move along. Service. Do you have a list of the? Okay, so there's a list of years of service for milestone years for some of our members.
Oh, congratulations, Barry. Wow.
Very much.
Kurt Cooper, 40 years. Wow.
Oh, Ray McBride, professor of mine. Okay, I'll make this fairly short because most of this, most of the information that I'm probably going to touch on is going to be presented in more detail by Ryan and Katie and others. I've been on the board since 2018 when there's a changeover of management, and but since then, the last year, we've continued to improve the balance sheet. So we've been very, very happy how that has proceeded over the last couple of years, and it continues to continues to solidify, and things are looking good on the balance sheet for the money that is in our bank account. Couple of things I'd just like to touch on that some new programs that were implemented this past year. The UOG University Growth Student Program. We took a view, kind of took a view that if we're going to grow the membership, we want to start with the younger people, and we've had a fair bit of success with that, and hope to continue to grow that program going forward. We're also implementing, hoping to implement a registrant referral program for new members. We're given a bit of an incentive to bring other people on board. And we continue to keep channels of communication open with other agricultural organizations in the province, and to see if there's any synergies or any ways we can work together to help all of our respective organizations. One other thing I'd just like to touch on, we're also in talks right now about implementing an Ontario Institute of Agrologists scholarship for a qualified graduate at the university from the Ontario Agriculture College. So that's something we're getting our name out there and getting, we're touching, we seem to be aiming towards touching on the younger members of our industry, and hopefully bring them on board, and then we'll have newer, younger people going forward to carry the organization forward. So that's really all I have to say as far as report. I'll pass that on to Ryan Kosleg for his registrar's report. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you all for being here this morning. It's crazy to think that I've actually been working with OIA for the last 3 years. I've still yet to have a face-to-face meeting with the board, face-to-face meeting with anybody. It's just been such a strange time with COVID, but we're hoping now moving forward that we can start looking at this in the rearview mirror and start meeting more face-to-face and getting that old mentality, that old face-to-face interaction that OIA was very much known for. Yeah, it's been great to work with the board over the last year and the last 3 years for that matter. We continue to be efficient as possible. Operating through Zoom is a way of doing that. And actually OIA board was doing that even before COVID. So they had always been trying to take advantage of the efficiencies of working online, but we do continue to operate like that. For those of you who don't know me, yeah, I'm Ryan Kosleg. We administer the OIA through my consulting organization. We also do the administration for other nonprofits in agriculture, including Mushrooms Canada, the Ontario Bean Growers, the Ontario Canola Growers, and the Ontario Agriculture Commodity Council. And so together we work together to try to find those efficiencies, to communicate jointly, and trying to, if there's any gaps in one organization, we kind of smooth them over by learning from one organization to the next. And we do that all internally, and working with Katie, she certainly does that and finds those efficiencies wherever possible. And I think that kind of leads to my next point, and just reiterating Rob's points about how we have been operating very fiscally responsible over the last year and a bit. I wasn't around for, I guess, prior to 3 years ago, but it is great to see the organization continue to build their reserves, modestly at that. I think that, that you'll see in the fiscal state or the financial statements that we do have a bit of a surplus, but we continue to monitor that and make sure that, the membership dues continue to flow in at a consistent level. Although we are starting to have conversations about fees and other avenues in order to reduce cost to members. We have not increased any fees too, so you kind of consider the inflation rates that we hear on the news all the time. We are maintaining our fees at the current level, not thinking of all those other costs that continue to go up. So it is good to see that. And the board is, very efficient and very responsible in their spending. I do want to also mention, so as the Register for Ontario, I do participate with the national AAC organization, which gets together with the other provinces, and it's good to see Alberta, Quebec, and Manitoba represented in our panel discussions later this morning. But this kind of all, it's been a transition year for the national organization, which kind of leads to our panel discussion later on too. So the national organization is currently undergoing a bit of a strategic review, engaged a consultant to try and identify new areas for the national organization to focus on and become more cooperative in the pursuit of a national agenda. Sorry, just getting some feedback there. If you're able to mute your microphones, that would be great. And so you'll also see that there were no fees that were deducted for this organization over this past year, which might also lead to some of that fiscal black. But yeah, so it's been a transition year for the national group, and maybe some of those conversations will come out in our panel discussions. We'll continue to participate at that national level and see where that goes. Yes, certainly it's been great to work with the University of Guelph in that partnership and seeing some of these students come forward over this past year as finding that speedy avenue to becoming a professional agrologist after immediately receiving their degrees. And I think it was 27 different fields of study. And so it's great to see that starting to pick up. And although we had maybe a bit higher of a projection that we were hoping to see, I think that we'll see this steadily increase as more people become aware of it and the benefits that you can get from being identified as a professional in agriculture. And lastly, I'm going to pass the floor over to Katie to talk about some other aspects of OIA. Katie, for all you guys know, she's the one who's the backbone doing the work for the organization. It's been great to work with her. Her energy and enthusiasm for OIA has been infectious, I think, for anybody who's been able to work with her and participate with the different courses and the different programs that she puts on, putting together your monthly newsletters and doing all the work behind the scenes. So it's been very much a pleasure to work with Katie, and I know she'll touch on some of the other things that I didn't cover in my report, so I'll pass it to Katie.
Hi, everyone. Most of you get to hear my writing and maybe speak to me on the phone, but not see my smiling face. Yeah, it's been great to work with OIA. I, like Ryan, came on right before COVID, and it's been a great board that's easy to adapt to what we've had to do. They've been very quick to continue with virtual meetings, allow that things were going to be different when Ryan and I came on, and it's just been wonderful. One of my big priorities has been growing the membership. So one of our very exciting points right now is that the Articling Agrologist membership category is our second largest category next to active professional agrologists. So we are definitely getting new members that are interested. We're getting people that, whether they're through the University of Guelph stream or a normal stream, whether they're new to Ontario or switching careers, there's a lot of interest in our organization that we have been able to seize. And that kind of leads me to my next point about the professionalism and ethics course. That was really hard to go from doing in person to doing virtually. And Drew and Doug have been very helpful the entire time. They've volunteered their time. They've been able to offer guidance with these courses, and it wouldn't be the same professionalism and ethics courses without their involvement. So I want to give them a huge thank you. Same with Christopher Defoe, has been really great for helping me understand the new bylaws. If we have any sort of procedural question, he's been fantastic. I always joke that I'm sure if I ever do meet him in person, we're going to have the nerdiest conversation about bylaws or something. But yeah, it's great that I do have resources like that to help me out, because it's hard when you're working on your kitchen table to have all of the normal resources out there. We're going to talk about it a little later, and it's come up now, but we are working on an award with the University of Guelph for a graduating student. We are continuing to recruit students. We're hoping to add a position on our board for a bit more student involvement. And we're looking for a referral program that I'm going to discuss later that allows our current members to use their networks and reach out to people that they think are a good fit with our organization as well. So yeah, we have a lot of fun stuff coming up in this meeting to talk about. The other fun thing that Ryan and I are really bouncing back and hoping to do is that we can hopefully get a face-to-face summer meeting, whether it's a tour or a short meeting. So if you have any ideas for that, let us know, but it would be great to put some faces to names. And with that, I will pass it back over to Rob or Ryan, I think.
Yeah, so I think the next item on the agenda will be reviewing the financial statements, and just give me a second, I can share my screen. Okay. Okay, so everybody should be able to see the financial statements on their screens now. They were sent out prior to today's meeting as well, and they're fairly short and succinct financial statements for an organization for I think the size of the operations that we have. So this past year, we did engage RLB, professional accountants, to do our financial review. So it's not a complete full audit like you might see with some other organizations, and this is a bit of a cost thing too for the organization. So they review our financial statements. It's a bit of a different process, maybe not as completely thorough as what you'd see with a regular audit, but still very much goes through all the books, looking for errors and omissions and any other items that they can find in order to make sure everything is accurately presented. And you'll see in the conclusion statement on page 3 that the review has come forward as saying that they believe the financial statements represent fairly in any material respects the financial position of the Institute of Professional Agrologists as of December 31st, 2021. So we have a fiscal year the same as the calendar. So looking at the page 4, the statement of financial position, not really too much to say here other than there was a bit of a changeover between the investments and going into cash. So the investments did come out last year, and so you'll just see there's a bit higher of cash as we continue to reinvest those into GICs, as hopefully we see some rates going up a bit higher. But we do have interest-bearing accounts with Meridian Credit Union where we hold all of our money. The operations for the organizations were fairly consistent with the previous year. One of the big changes that you'll see in the 2021 is contributions, which was actually the closure of the central branch organization. So they did forward their remaining balance to the provincial organization, or OIA, and so that is reflected as the 6779. But 114,000 in revenue overall for last year, which is fairly consistent, I'd say, for the previous year. Expenditures are fairly same, other than you'll see here the support and sponsorship. We did spend some funds going towards advertising, and so hopefully everybody's able to see that advertisements are going out in the Ontario Farmer and other papers in the agriculture, encouraging people to either participate in the OIA or hire OIA registrants for whatever task that they need to be undertaking. So with that, we had an $87,000 expenditure, which left us with a surplus of $26,000. Overall assets in the end of the year, $139,186. And there's really not too much to say here either with the statement of cash flows, just a bit of the ins and outs, investments coming out and into cash, but then will be reinvested for this year. Cash at the end of the year, $181,000. And then the rest is the remainder of notes. So with that, I think if there's no other questions, I'll just put it back to a statement of operations. And then if no other comments or statements, I think we'll seek an approval from the membership.
Ryan, I just had a question. It's Andy here. If you could, the last statement before the notes, following notes there, the summary of the balance sheet there, where you have fees paid in advance. Can you explain the difference between the positive fees in advance in 2020 versus the negative fees in advance of 12,000 in 2021? I'm a little unclear on that.
Yeah, And honestly, some of this stuff does go a bit over my head when it comes to these ins and outs for some of these statements that are there. But I think in essence, probably a lot of this has to do with either HSTs to be paid out. There was no real operations, I'd say, that would result in a big change, but sometimes it's just a matter of when things are flowing in and out of the organization and account balances beginning and end of the year. So I can seek additional clarification from RLB on that one, but yeah, I'm not a professional accountant myself, so I'm not going to be able to explain that specific line item.
It's Doug here. I had a question as well. There are some guidelines for not-for-profits as to how much money they're supposed to have in reserve, and I think it's related to a certain proportion of operating expenses or whatever. I mean, it's wonderful to see a positive balance, but I think there are some limits, I mean, to how much money we should have in reserve. So I'm just throwing that out as a comment, I guess, more than.
Yeah, and I think this is something that the board has been conscious of. I think for a lot of the nonprofit organizations and for the other ones that I do operate, you know, often they say they would like to see a balance for which they could operate in a full year worth of expenditures for the organization. So we are hitting that mark. As far as like any kind of regulations, I haven't run into anything or had any advisements from RLBs on, you know, what amount that would be before you reach any kind of penalty or situation of concern. I think often their advice would be come back as long as we have a plan for, you know, what to be doing with those reserves if they go above and beyond, say, like, you know, operating with a zero revenue over a course of 1 year in case there is some kind of unforeseen circumstance. See a hand raise from Constant. Oh, you are muted.
You're still muted, Constant.
There we go.
Yeah, sorry if I missed something, but I wanted to know what the contributions are about and why, how did we move from zero contribution in 2020 to 6,000 in 2021?
Yeah, so in essence, I think what has happened there is that the central branch, which was really the branch that was located in the GTA, they decided to close last year. So they no longer are functioning as a branch like it historically had been in the past. And so when they did have a balance in their bank accounts, they forwarded that over to the provincial organization. So this was a one-time transaction. There's not going to be something like that hopefully happening for other branches in Ontario. And so this is why in 2020 it was a zero, because this was an activity that did not take place. It was a one-time occurrence, and so it will be reflected in the 2021. So yeah, hopefully next year it will be indicated as a zero as a contribution.
Okay, thank you.
It's Barry Fraser here. I had 2 comments. First off, I note on the statement of operations a zero expenditure for director and staff expenses. So that's an indication, of course, of COVID, I would really suspect. And the second question I have is professional fees, $3,600. That's give an explanation further as to what that represents.
Yeah, professional fees are really actually just the accountant. I don't believe that there's any other additional fees that are associated with that other than RLB's accounting fee. And yes, you're correct with it comes to the director and staff expenses. There are no per diems that are paid to our directors, and there were no travel expenses that were included. If anything, probably it was a timing of paying Zoom fees, if anything at all, that would result in a zero. So we do have some modest expenses associated for this year's as we're hoping to see some face-to-face meetings take place.
Thank you.
I'd like to move we accept the financial statements as presented.
Second, Christopher Dufault.
Any objections?
So Katie did put up the poll there too, if everybody wants to participate in the poll maybe for this one.
Any objections in the poll, Katie?
No, I'm watching right now that we're at 26 of 33 people have participated. But so far, everyone has approved.
Okay, then we'll
We will.
consider that carried then.
And the poll. And then I also have one for the approval of the auditors. But we do need someone to make the motion and second it.
I'll make that motion. Katie.
I'll second, Richard.
And how's that looking, Katie?
I will give another few seconds. And we can end that. And it has passed.
Okay, then carried. Okay, so I think we can move on to the next item as the acknowledgement of the 2022-2023 OIA Board of Directors and Branch Executives. You have some information there, Katie.
I am just getting my screen back. We do still have a Quinte branch. It's not active, so that's why it's listed without any executive members. As always, if you would like to get that branch going, let us know.
Okay. And yours, I'll let you carry on from there, Katie.
All right. Like I mentioned before, a huge part of what I've been focusing on is growing the membership during COVID. It's been a little hard to do a lot of member engagement when we're all isolating. But we have noticed that there's a lot of people that have wanted to come on, join the organization. So that's where we've really been focusing right now on growing the membership. And then, so last year we launched our OIA OAC graduate project. I believe it was at the AGM that we started talking about it and promoting it. We had 30 applicants total, 22 of them are still involved. So it has been a big success. Like for who we've had that has been involved, it's been successful for them. We have one person who has already graduated from the University of Guelph articling agrologist process and is now a professional agrologist. We have one or two other members that are also really close, that by this summer they should be in the professional agrologist stream. It is coming up to the end of the academic year and the next round of graduations. So we are doing a press push right now through our social media and through career services at the University of Guelph to get OIA's name out there and to let these graduating students know that it's an option as well. So that being said, I do have an information session coming up this following Tuesday. It's not just for the University of Guelph students, it's for anyone that's looking to join OIA, whether you're a recent grad or just looking to switch careers. So if you know someone that you would like to send this to, whether it's the summer student where you work or, you know, your nephew, your niece, anything like that, feel free to send it to them or send me an email and I can send you the link for that as well. Because we're getting good engagement from our new members, we're going to continue to thrive on this. Some of the plans that we do have coming up, we've been working at establishing an award for a graduating OAC student. We've been in discussions with this for a while. We're looking at it for next year. In order to sign up, we have to make at least a 5-year commitment. And so we are very happy with that. Right now, what we're looking at is looking at similar awards that they offer and making sure that the criteria for ours really makes it stand out, that it's not somebody that can just go through and kind of click boxes on all of the scholarships, that we're looking for very specific things for who would get our award. We're also looking to create a student position on the OAC board. So that way, if we have a student that's looking to get involved, make connections, and, you know, get more experience for their resume, this would be a great opportunity for them. This is something that requires us to make bylaw amendments, which is why we're looking at doing it for 2023. We're looking at doing a review of the bylaws this fall, that they've been around for about 2 years now, that we've went through them, that Christopher and I have discussed, just making sure that they work, that there wasn't a change that sounded great on paper, but in reality, it's not working out for the office or procedurally. So we're already looking to do the bylaw amendments. We're looking to fit in this student position there as well. So for any of our students that are on this call, or if you know a student member, make sure to put that in their ears.
Katie, quick question.
Yes.
Was that a position on the OIA board for OAC?
Oh, sorry.
And-
Yes. That I have the wrong acronym on this slide. Thank you for
look up new options.
It would be a student position on the OIA board, not the OAC.
Katie, it's Elaine Vaninsky. Anything for McDonald campus and McGill
Just want to
University?
minimize this because I need to see my stuff too.
Yeah.
Oops.
We are working with the University of Guelph right now, just because we do have this program with them. We have a good working relationship with them. We thought about doing a scholarship that we could open up, that we would administer for any student that's an agrologist in Ontario, or doing it for different schools. And that's just a huge project to open up all at the same time. So if this one goes really well, then we'll definitely be open to looking at student awards for other campuses. But this is kind of our first trial. Any other questions about the student plans? Okay. So this is our new project that we're excited to launch for this AGM. Everybody likes to be invited to stuff. If you have a friend that invites you to an organization or a social meeting, you're way more likely to attend than if it's something that you've just been seeing on Twitter. And we're really hoping to use that and use all of our professional networks to grow the organization. So what we're hoping to do coming up is have a bit of a referral program where if you refer a member, the referred applicant will receive a $50 discount on their annual dues for up to 2 years, or until they complete the articling agrologist process, which is the same as what we're doing with the University of Guelph stream, that they get a discount until they've completed the articling agrologist process, or 2 years. But once the referred member completes their articling agrologist process, then the person who referred them can receive $50 off their next membership dues. So if you refer your coworker, you're actively involved in making sure that they attend their meeting, that they do a presentation, and it just gives you a bit of ownership for who you refer as well. So we're really hoping that this takes off. It seems like we all work in different industries, we have different businesses, and everyone seems to know someone that they think would be a good fit for the organization. So we're hoping to use our own personal networks. The nitty-gritty of this is that for registrants in good standing, you can refer up to 3 applicants a year. So that would save you a total of $150 on your membership dues. Retired registrants can refer 1 applicant a year. This is just because they only pay $50 in membership fees, so they're not going to make a profit off of this. And so if it's been a while since you went through the articling agrologist process, we do have what we consider a bit of a fast track lane that if you've been working as an agrologist, that you're in the middle of your career, for example, you have well over that 2-year full-time experience that we require. So we count your previous employment, and then you just need to achieve the other requirements of completing the professionalism and ethics course, your branch presentation, and attending an OIA meeting. So if you have someone that you're hoping to refer that is 45 and in the middle of their career and have kids at home and all of that, they can know that they can go through this and do it in a 6-month process. And that's also another bit of a feather in a cap, that if you are trying to pitch one of your coworkers about the organization, if they know that they already could have a fast track option, they're more likely to think about doing it, that it's less of a time commitment for them. It would have to go through the same process as our normal members, where their application goes to the committee, we review it just to make sure that they do have the academic requirements, that they do have the work experience they're saying if they're looking for the fast tracked option. Because since we have to be consistent with other provinces, it is important to make sure that they have all of the academic requirements across Canada. I believe this is my last slide on the registrant referral program. So I can now open it up to questions. And I see that Constant has a question right away.
Okay, since we are talking about membership, I have a question about membership mobility, meaning that people come and go. People come to Ontario or move out of Ontario. So suppose that an agrologist from Alberta or Quebec comes to Ontario, and they belong to a professional agrologist order in their previous province. Do they have to go through the same process, or can they be accepted right away? Okay, in other words, is there any agreement between OIA and other professional orders to facilitate membership mobility?
We do have arrangements with all of the other provincial organizations for that. It's significantly easier to move once you're either a professional agrologist or a technical agrologist. It can be a little complicated if you're still going through the articling process. Because, for example, you may have to do the professionalism and ethics course in both provinces. But once you're a professional agrologist in one province, you have to submit your paperwork from that organization to the province you're going to, and you can either be a dual member, so that, like, say you're working in 2 or 3 provinces at the same time, or you can transfer your membership. So yeah, like, we do check with the other organizations that you couldn't get into a huge fight with Manitoba and not pay dues with them and leave them and then try to join Ontario. But it's all organized that you can switch between provinces if you need, or work in multiple provinces at the same time.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
Katie, it's Barry Fraser here.
Hi, Barry.
It's been mentioned that the central branch was recently closed down. Is there any, and often that's good directions to go, just close down and then restart with a new slate of new members. Is there any attempt or being thought about of trying to restart the central branch with a cluster of interested persons?
I have not been driving that initiative. I tend to joke that I'm kind of reactive as a staff member, that the board tells me what the problems are, what the issues are, and we work from there. But again, like, if that's something people are interested in, I definitely have the time to make it possible. I'd love for us to have active branches, especially after COVID. I feel like some people are really keen to get back to those socializing events. Yeah, so we don't currently have an initiative to get Central going again. If there's people in Central that would like it, I'd be more than willing to work with them.
Well, then I'll redirect my comment over to the board and let it go at that.
Okay.
I can mute this.
So that's all, Katie?
That is all for me if there's no more questions.
Okay.
Yes, Sheila.
I think now we're,
I'm well, thanks. How are you?
oh, could we all please mute our computers? Thank you. Okay. So I think we'll pass it over to Richard Heck, who will,
We have to do this business provision, don't we?
we'll pass it to Richard Heck. You there, Richard?
Thanks, Rob. Actually, we're still waiting on one of our discussion forum participants. Maybe we can just continue with the general discussion. We did schedule with him at exactly 10:30, and maybe that's the time or close to that he was actually planning to enter. So if
Yeah, we are
we
running.
could wait, just
I talk
Yeah,
fast,
sorry.
guys, sorry.
Yeah, we're running 15 minutes ahead of time here, so, yeah.
rather than starting and then him joining in after, I think if we could just hold off and stay on the established schedule.
Or we can, we could take a 10-minute break. Is that, if there's nothing to discuss?
That's a great idea, Rob.
Okay. So is everybody okay with that? We'll take a 10-minute break and we'll come back at about 10:25.
And I would just, if Jim Weir happens to be on there, I wasn't sure if Jim, you might have David Lloyd's cell number, and then we could track him down and make sure that he'll be joining.
I am joining you and I see everybody. Can you hear me? It's
We can.
David Lloyd.
Yeah, we can hear you. Oh,
That's David Lloyd from Edmonton. Yes.
oh, Dave, you're under Jim's name.
I've been on the line. You bet.
So, so just to have this correct, so Jim Weir's name on our Zoom screens is actually David Lloyd.
That could be, yes. 'Cause
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
So let's.
I'm renaming him.
There we go.
So we're still waiting for someone then, or
And is Jim
There we
Weir
go.
on?
Yes, I'm on.
All right, so Jim's here. So it does. Who's the other individual we're missing?
So what's
Katie?
happened
Louise,
is,
Richard.
so what happened is, I sent David my login, and so we're both on the same one. So if you want to have them separated, Katie, if you send David, resend him an invite to the meeting, then he'll be able to log back in with his own.
I've been able to change the names on our
Yep.
screen that you're both showing
That's
up
great.
as David and Jim now. We figured it out. And Louise from Quebec is also here right now. So we do have all of our speakers if we want.
okay. Then do you want to continue then, or did you still want to? Well, we've only been on, haven't even been on an hour yet. Or is
it's the
anybody
choice
need
of the
five-
group. If they need to take a quick break,
Yeah,
we can take
maybe a
quick break.
bathroom break would be beneficial to everyone then. 5-minute break then? Does that suit everyone?
5-minute break.
Okay, all right.
See y'all soon.
All right.
Richard? Oh, okay.
Yes, Louise, you just caught me.
That's okay. I have some PowerPoint to present if it's possible. I
Yes.
think my level in English is far than perfect. Then with the diapositive, the PowerPoint, it will be better, I think, to be understood. So
Yes.
if it's okay with you, okay.
Yes,
It's not
no,
long,
absolutely.
I won't
And
take
perhaps-
more than my 15 minutes.
Yep. No,
Okay.
that's perfect. That's perfect. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay.
Bonjour Louise, comment allez-vous?
Très bien, et vous?
Oui, ça va très bien. Je me suis dit que nous sommes peut-être les deux francophones de la rencontre et ce serait une bonne chose de parler un peu avant que les autres n'arrivent.
Ah, ça me fait plaisir. Écoutez, mon anglais est loin d'être parfait, mais je vais me débrouiller. C'est certain. J'ai pas l'occasion de travailler en anglais. Au Québec, les autres professionnels, on travaille 95% de notre temps en français, alors c'est assez différent. Donc,
Oh, mais ils vont comprendre.
oui, j'ai pas
Eux aussi, ils vont faire l'effort de comprendre une francophone qui parle anglais. Parce que nous, on fait l'effort de les comprendre.
Oui, tout à fait. Avez-vous déjà travaillé au Québec, Constant?
Non, pas encore. Ouais. J'étais en fait aux États-Unis, c'est de là-bas que je suis venu en Ontario. Mais
OK.
oui, je compte venir au Québec dans le mois prochain. Je compte m'installer au Québec.
Ah, d'accord.
Oui.
Ça va nous faire plaisir de recevoir votre demande, votre candidature au poste d'agronome au Québec.
Merci. Ça me fera plaisir de garder le contact avec vous.
Moi, je travaille à temps partiel. Je suis ce qu'on appelle au Québec une pré-retraitée. Je me prépare à... Oui, je travaille... je suis l'ancienne directrice générale de l'Ordre, mais c'est ça, j'effectue des tâches de façon occasionnelle. J'ai des petits contrats avec l'Ordre. Je viens tout juste de partir. J'ai quitté mon poste le 10 janvier de cette année. Alors, c'est tout récent encore.
C'est ça, oui, c'est ça. Wow.
C'est ça.
OK. Excellent.
Oui.
En tout cas, je vais peut-être vous envoyer dans le chat mes coordonnées. Et puis, j'aimerais également avoir les vôtres pour garder le contact.
D'accord, pas de problème. Et je vous enverrai celle de la direction générale aussi à l'ordre parce qu'on on a un comité d'admission à ce moment-là. Votre demande va passer par le comité d'admission. Ce sera pas je pense pas que ça va être très compliqué, là, mais c'est ça.
D'accord. Merci beaucoup.
Ça me fait plaisir.